I also wrote the book review for Final Flight from SANAA, and I was really honored that Dr. Ghanem allowed me to come here and speak and open up this for him. A couple of things about the book that I found really interesting. First, I thought that the book was extremely intriguing. The story was politically active, and as a minor in political science, I found that I was really interested in the concept of politics that he brought in. The character is Tariq's character in the book. He's a Muslim character living in the Western world, like we are here. Most of us are here. His outlook on the West and his deep understanding of the Islamic faith was really interesting to me because I come from a very Muslim background as well. But there's a couple of things that I found really, really challenging to the book, and that was the sexual details that were in the book that I found astonishing, to be quite honest. Coming from a very Muslim background, I couldn't read the book. I had to put it down. And I know you're laughing, because I think that I was reading Shala's book review, and she also said that she couldn't, she had to put it down. I honestly found this to be so difficult, you have no idea. Not because I am young or, this stuff is new to me. I mean, I grew up here, so the sexuality aspect of Western media is so open to us. We see it in movies everywhere. So it's nothing new to me, and it's not like, like I was shy about it. But I think one thing about the book is that the intensity of the detail, of the sexual detail, is what really caught my attention. And it was such a challenge. I had to put it down most of the time, and then I had to pick it back up and read it. And I was like, no, Tamara, you have to read it, continue. And so as soon as I passed that challenge, as soon as I went ahead and continued to read it, I found that it was very politically driven and integrating for me, especially. But I have two questions for Dr. Ghanem. That usually in my book review, I spoke about it in a very positive way. But now I want to be sort of like the devil's advocate, and I want to ask you two questions and kind of put you on the spot. The first question, I'm really curious, why the intensity of the detail, of the sexual detail? Like, why did you need to put that in the book? And the second is, what purpose does it make to include sexuality in a politically driven plot in a story? What's the use of the first four chapters of the book being so sexually intense? What's the purpose of that? What did it add to the book, being that it's a political story? And I think I'm going to conclude here. And
I've been asked to say a few words about the book, and in the last few decades, I have read many books written by fellow Muslims. A few of them deal with the issue of sexuality among Muslims and how the sexual attitudes of Muslims affect their human rights and their self-determination in both Muslim communities here in the West and in Muslim countries. And it's true that this book does have this huge political theme to it. I mean, looking at the reviews since the book has been released, I mean, I was the first review that was on the website, and then when I had a chance to look at the other reviews, what was quite interesting was that different readers took home, so to speak, different aspects of this book. So, for example, one of the reviews was focused on Yemen, and one of the reviews was focused on women's rights, and another review was focused on racism. And I thought this was very interesting, and what really struck me about this was that I thought that it was because this character, Tariq Hakim, who's the main character in the book, he is a multi-dimensional character, and he is not what we normally are inundated with in the mainstream media, in that this is a secular Muslim man, and the book is from his perspective. And we aren't just seeing him from the monolithic perspective that sometimes we see in the mainstream media in terms of how Muslim men are portrayed. We see a lot of different dimensions to his character. So this is what I noticed in terms of the reviews. Now, this main character, Tariq, he is, like I said, a secular Muslim, a divorced physician and poet. He's, I think, middle-aged in his 60s. He seems very engaged in the world around him, and he's not perfect. He is by no means not perfect. There were, he has a lot of opinions, and I didn't agree with some of his opinions. Some of the things that he said actually, you know, made me mad and put down the book and asked my husband, how could he say that? My husband said, well, fictional characters have the right to their own opinions, so, you know. But I guess what it said to me was that this is, you know, this is the fact that not even, you know, secular Muslims are not a monolith. As Muslims, we say this, we are not a monolith, because we feel sometimes that we are being portrayed in the media as being only one way. And that we feel in the media that we are being portrayed as being all the same. And when you read this book and you read about this character and all of his viewpoints, whether you agree with him or not, it's very interesting because of the diversity of his thought. Through Tariq's eyes in Final Flight from SANAA, we do see this very intimate sketch of some of the people around him. And it's a sketch as well of people raised in closed societies where sexuality is reserved for marriage so rigidly that the consequence of rape exceeds that of any other brutal assault. And it proposes the notion that coming from a very closed society may in some instances mean it's very hard to abandon old practices out of fear, but at the same time it doesn't always mean that an individual will be unavailable to a variety of different new experiences. And as Tamra mentioned, the book is very sexually explicit in parts, and it did challenge my own Puritanism, and I didn't know that I had Puritanism. I had this sort of sense of Puritanism, and my senses were quite shocked. But when I think about it, what was shocking to me was not necessarily the sexual explicitness itself. What was shocking to me was that I was not accustomed to reading about Muslims in this context, because you know, reading about Muslims enjoying consensual sex, this was shocking, but at the same time there's a rape scene. And the rape scene, unfortunately, was not shocking. And that, in itself, to me, is very disturbing. That somehow the media or the culture or the environment in which I find myself in, has seeped into my consciousness so much that it shocked me that there were people who were Muslim who were enjoying consensual sex, and that was shocking, but the rape scene seemed normal. This notwithstanding that I don't regard rape as normal whatsoever. So I think that that was very interesting, and I think that it really did blaze a trail, because I haven't read about sexuality in Muslim countries, in the Muslim world, or in our community in this way ever before. And it begs the question as well, when you look at the book in terms of the story having to do with the rape victim, so I won't give it all away because there may be people here who haven't read it, but how much does a radical Islamic ideology that may in some instances provide that the source of all evil is a woman's sexuality make all Muslims, including moderate and progressive Muslims, vulnerable to what Muslim governments can do to Muslims in Muslim countries? And how much does this ideology hinder us here at home in the West when it comes to dealing with issues such as honor and shame, and as it relates to a woman's role and a woman's purity? And I think it's very interesting. Qais Ghanem has begun a very candid discussion with his book about these issues, and it's an examination of the way women's freedoms and the freedoms as well of the male members of their family are restricted, not only in Muslim countries necessarily, but anywhere where honor and shame are issues. So I think it's by taking note of books like Final Flight from SANAA and authors like Dr. Ghanem that we can begin this sort of a dialogue, which is very important. I'd like to now introduce Farouk Aman to come up and give his review.
Nevertheless, I am pleased I attended this book launch, as I had the opportunity to purchase the book too. So I thought it would be a challenge to read it in 48 hours only, if I ever could. And from the moment that I started reading, I knew that 24 hours would actually be a cakewalk. The events of the book were so captivating, as far as I'm concerned, right from the word go. In addition, I could relate to the motivating writing style of Dr. Ghanem, his power to describe matters and to underline what is being read. Indeed, the inevitable erotic segments of the book were as electrifying and true to life as can be. This could be controversial, some people will contradict me. This is Canada's Harold Robbins in action, I told myself, and I read a lot for Harold Robbins. The chronology of the events did not signal that we have an author attempting his first ever novel. The effortless, yet hard to emulate, style would make it trouble-free reading for anyone, be it young or old, man or woman. Then there was the candid religious views revealed. Dr. Ghanem was apparently not loath to provoke controversy by what he wrote, nor did he appear to care, if indeed that happened. My guess is he would deal with it then. Obviously, Dr. Ghanem's professional medical knowledge offered him that extra verb to feature what he does best in his field of medicine as a doctor. Even if others tried to follow his footsteps, they would have to refer to volumes of literature to sink their respective teeth into, in order to eventually come up with what they wish to convey. In the case of Dr. Ghanem, I believe he did not have to, and would not have to spend umpteen hours of research, for he has it up there and ready to share. In addition, I believe that Dr. Ghanem might have made a bigger fortune had he started writing novels earlier in his life, instead of studying medicine. Perhaps he might have been adopted or taken under the wings of a Hollywood film scenario expert, earning millions for each episode or film. And he would have been surrounded by Hollywood stars of all races and colors. I dare say that sometimes one finds oneself with that special talent concealed for decades without detection. But given the opportunity of a simple dare by his friend Dr. Adil, as he tells us in the preface, Dr. Ghanem was suddenly launched into the gold mine of novel writing. My last sentence. Dr. Ghanem, I trust I'm not making you feel too big for your boots, as the British would say. But you are a born star in noble writing, and good luck.